It's time for NTV Weekend Edition. We've got the day's top stories from our newsroom live from the Nation Center. Tonight,
I cannot say the owner because that will have to search. Today, we've come to look at the encroachment.
Well, we can and will say who the owner of the former Dolphin Hotel is. Also tonight,
the drugs I'm taking are quite expensive.
Patients across the country suffer from huge bills as hospitals make a killing.
From 700 to 35,000. How much? How? Even if it's a profit.
Plus, ODM leader and the deputy president shake hands at a burial ceremony. But what more do they share?
Sasa jameni, tuwachane na mambo ya vyeo, mambo ya vyama, mambo ya uchaguzi, mambo ya viongozi.
Salamini Uhuru, najenga daraja. Salamini na Ruto, najenga daraja.
Also tonight,
issues of bringing out matters you may be discussing indoors to the public domain.
Council of Governors chairman reproves Nairobi governor for leaked phone conversation with his Kiambu counterpart.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Masai.
Trust you've had a good day. David Agondor is my co-pilot on the sign language wing, and we're glad you could join us. Tonight, records from the National Environment Management Authority show the application for extension and alteration of the Dolphin Hotel that is allegedly encroaching on sea land was filed by Western Hotel Limited. Our search of the NEMA website showed that the proposed extension was given a go-ahead to alter the property under the application number NEMA EIA PSR 6347. In the meantime, the county government of Mombasa Lands Department now says it will liaise with other government agencies to check how the approvals for the construction were made. But even with a promise to furnish the public with a full report in the coming week, civil society groups are unsatisfied with the county's explanations, claiming that they and NEMA were protecting a senior and powerful person within government. Leila Mohammed begins our coverage tonight with that story.
Aboard outside what was the Dolphin Hotel on plot number LRMN 15903 in Msando outlines the details of the alteration to that property, only listing that the construction was being done by companies based in Nairobi. It, however, does not name the client. And while a tour of the construction site was aimed at determining if there was a breach of the law, the county official stayed away from the subject of who was behind the construction.
The owner of the building and the directors.
I cannot say the owner because that will have to search. Today, we've come to look at the encroachment. Really, the ownership or the work does not really concern us.
But a search on the NEMA website reveals that the construction work was approved by the authority under the application NEMA EIA PSR 6347. NEMA records also show that the application for the extension and alteration of the Dolphin Hotel was filed by the Western Hotel Limited. Both NEMA and the county government say the construction cannot be stopped by now, but there are mounting concerns about what this means to the aquatic and marine life that use this area as the breeding ground.
Please, can you give us time to do our investigation? I will come to you. NEMA will give you information before the end of the day.
But where we stand here, this is an elevated, it's almost 10 feet high compared to the rest of the beach. Okay? It is unusual for an ordinary investor to order the guards and rough up two photojournalists of the nation. That's why all these things are happening, and these two organizations are looking the other side.
The construction has been ongoing for the last 2 years. The reclamation of the beach began 2 months ago. The county executive in charge of lands in Mombasa County says some land approvals were given out years ago, but due to environmental changes, some owners who have genuine papers might be pushed back to give way for the sea.
It is this regular inspection that will make sure that the terms of such approval are given. So yes, it might have been given. Has it gone beyond? That is why we were here to establish if they've actually gone beyond the mandate of vote.
This is also a marine area. Turtles come to nestle here and they do all that. There is no way a turtle will be able to come up 10 feet high to lay their eggs.
While the jury is still out on the legality of the construction, the two NMG journalists who were assaulted while trying to get answers to this were today back in Bamburi police station, where they recorded statements and presented P3 forms. Earlier, the Daily Nation reported that Kenya's police boss Joseph Boynet has ordered immediate investigations into their assault. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Well, details of that story will be on Your Saturday Nation tomorrow. Beach grabbing being the operative word. Make sure you grab a copy. No pun intended. Tourism and Wildlife Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala also tonight digs into the subject with a warning against those who have encroached into the country's beaches that their properties will be demolished. Balala says the demolitions happening in Nairobi will be replicated at the coast, starting with Malindi, where the Tourism Ministry and the Kilifi County government will jointly work to safeguard the county's waterfront, starting from the Sabaki River to the Vasco da Gama Pillar.
The era of impunity and corruptions are gone. You have seen the national government and the commitment of His Excellency the President on fighting corruption, fighting impunity, and the action speaks louder than the talk. I can tell you, anybody who is on grab land, public utility land, let them be ready. Being in Mombasa, being in Nairobi, being in Turkana, the government will come for you.
And there's definitely more reactions to this and more details that you can get on Your Saturday Nation tomorrow. As mentioned earlier, make sure that you grab your copy of this for the full details to this beach grabbing story. The property managers of 14 Riverside, Knight Frank, have discounted reports that their buildings occupy a nature reserve. They now say they're yet to be formally notified that their property is one of those that will be affected in the ongoing demolition of buildings erected on riparian land. In a statement sent to the newsrooms, Knight Frank says Cape Holdings, 14 Riverside's mother company, sought and obtained approval from all necessary agencies before they began the construction more than 10 years ago. They also explained that they complied with all the terms of the approval from the national government, the National Environmental Management Authority, and Water Management Authority. The said building is adjacent to the Nairobi River and houses part of the hotel suites and offices in the expansive multi-billion project. Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko's recording of his phone call with his Kiambu counterpart Ferdinand Waititu, which was later leaked to the public, is unethical. This is according to the Council of Governors Chair Josephat Nanok, who has termed as misinformed the proposal by Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu to move rivers in places with buildings put up on riparian land. The county CEO's boss called for a review of how they relate with each other as he was speaking at the first Kajiado Governor's Scorecard Conference held in Isinya, where Governor Joseph Ole Lenku took stock of his year in office. The Kajiado Governor promised to deal with the ills affecting his county, including land wars. He also asked the youth to chase their dreams regardless of the high rate of unemployment in the county and Kenya at large. Kajiado residents have been promised a diaspora desk that will set out to explore how the county can work with those abroad for good of the county.
Issues of taping your colleagues' discussions. Issues of bringing out matters you may be discussing indoors to the public domain. But I think these are issues that we should be looking at so that there is respect communicating between a county government and another county government. Kama mwenzetu mmoja, one of our colleagues, have made certain suggestions on issues of planning, on issues of relocating rivers. Personally, to me, that is not wrong. It is a very good suggestion that has been put to the public debate.
Tayari tumekubaliana ya kwamba tutabuni economic block yetu ya Narok na Kajiado.
Mambo ya ufisadi ni jambo ambayo Wakenya wote wanasimama naye. Na mimi naona rais anapata marafiki zaidi kuliko vile inafikiriwa kwamba anapoteza marafiki. na kwa mambo ya Mau tulisema msimamo yetu kitambo kwamba Mau sio ya Narok tu, sio ya Wamasai tu, sio ya Kenya tu. Mau is an international important system that must be protected not only for ourselves but even for generations to come.
Housing Cabinet Secretary James Macharia says the ongoing demolition of buildings constructed on riparian land or road reserves will continue in the coming weeks. The CS says the campaign is aimed at correcting the planning mess in the city centre and across the country.
To eradicate the bad history by bringing down those buildings. Whether it's a 10-story building or 20-story building, they'll be brought down. There are no exception, to make sure that the future is clear from these things.
And now to one of the latest land sagas. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says senior government officials ignored expert advice before paying the 1.5 billion shillings in compensation for land the State Public Investment and Accounts Committee declared public. AACC alleges an elaborate scheme calculated over 3 decades that was well crafted and either knowingly or unknowingly roped in government officials. Ken Mijungu read through the Commission's dossier and reports that the affidavit also brings in new names to the saga whose roles were previously unknown.
This affidavit was filed in court by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in response to a case in which the Anti-Corruption Agency is opposing an application by the National Lands Commission to stop any civil or criminal proceedings in relation to the disputed Ruraka land and its acquisition by the Ministry of Education. NLC is in court to determine the validity of the title for the Ruraka land and the payments made in settlement for the compulsory acquisition. In the affidavit, EACC indicates that in spite of the fact that investigations determined that the land in which Drive-In Primary and Ruraka High School are built is public land having been surrendered, the Ministry of Education officials changed its status to private and later paid out compensation for acquiring it compulsorily. The affidavit also suggests that the owner, Francis Mburu, purported letter of cancellation of the conditional subdivision was part of the elaborate plan that would years later culminate into a fraudulent payment, even though the government was given a guarantee. The affidavit also shows that one ZM Ndege, acting on behalf of the Commissioner of Lands, notified Francis Mburu that a proposed subdivision scheme was approved. Ndege is however disowned in the affidavit and described as a junior officer who had no authority to approve the subdivision and was then stationed at the Thika Land Registry, hence was not in a position to make approval for the land located in Nairobi, and because of this, illegalities were committed. Further, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission notes that the fact that the land arrears to the tune of 3 million shillings existed at the time, no subdivision was possible, as it would be against the council bylaws that approvals can only be granted once arrears are cleared. But more revealing is that a letter was written on the 3rd of February last year to Education PS Bello Kipsang and copied to the then Education CS Fred Matiang'i, indicating that the parcel with the schools was public land, requesting that documentation to support this be fast-tracked to protect the school from encroachment. But Bello Kipsang wrote back to the EACC 4 days later, stating that the schools were on private land, in total disregard to an advice from the EACC. Matiang'i would then write to the National Lands Commission to commence the process of compensation, and subsequently NLC chairperson Mohamud Sazuri wrote to Matiang'i 2 months later requesting that he sets aside 3.269 billion shillings for the compensation that was to be deposited in the NLC account, an amount that EACC now says was arrived at before the valuation was carried out.
The authenticity of information and also value the resources involved, we institute a recovery suit in court. Even in this case, that's exactly what we are going to do.
Francis Mburu has argued that he never surrendered the portion, which is more than the legally required 10% compulsory surrender. The total acreage is 96 acres, hence a surrender would have been 9.6 acres. Mburu also says the plot was illegally occupied by the schools even after he cancelled the development. He has indicated he is willing to refund the money but must be given back his plot, which he also claims that the county has illegally subdivided into 800 plots and allocated different people. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
To health concerns now at the county level, patients continue to bear the brunt of the shortage of drug and medical supplies that has affected county hospitals in Murang'a County. The Kenya Medical Supplies Authority stopped supplying drugs to the county over an accrued debt of 61 million shillings, affecting hospital operations in the county. Hospitals in Migori and Narok have also not been receiving drugs due to the huge amounts owed to the drug agency. Martin Mora has more from Murang'a.
Despite hundreds of millions being set aside in the county budget for the purchase and supply of drugs to county hospitals, patients continue to suffer an acute shortage of drugs at these facilities. At the Murang'a County Referral Hospital, patients say they are forced to buy drugs from pharmacies elsewhere. The prices in these private pharmacies, they say, are way out of reach for a number of them. Ben Mwangi, a diabetic patient, and Rosalind Kamina, a cancer survivor, are some of the affected patients who, after visiting the facility, were forced to dig deeper into their pockets to buy the much needed drugs.
Baada ya kumwona daktari akaniandikia mandawa, lakini hiyo mandawa aliniandikia nikaenda kwa pharmacy, lakini pharmacy hawakuwa na dawa ya kutosha. Waza nilipewa ingine kama ni substitute ya ile dawa natumianga, lakini kwa vile sina la kufanya nilipokea, lakini kuna zingine haikupatikana.
The drugs I'm taking are quite expensive. It was very sad for me, a very sad day for me and my colleagues who are taking those drugs, because when we went to the doctor and we were given the prescription, we were told there is no need of going to the pharmacy where we collect drugs because they have not been paid. And they told us the hospital had no drugs.
The Kenya Medical Supplies Authority stopped supplying drugs to Murang'a County hospitals 3 years ago as the county debt filed. The county then entered into an agreement with private pharmacies to supply drugs to hospitals. But that arrangement also fell apart after the pharmacies also cut the supply, citing huge debts owed to them by the county. Murang'a County Executive in charge of health told NTV on phone that the county has been in talks with KEMSA and had worked out a payment plan. Currently, the county owes KEMSA 46 million shillings and had committed to pay 5 million shillings a month. A number of hospitals in Murang'a, Migori and Narok counties will have to continue to operate without drugs and medical supplies until they pay up their debt to KEMSA. Martin Mora, NTV, Murang'a.
Here's something else that should get your attention. If you pay for your hospital bills using NHIF or insurance, you could be paying up to 50 times more than you would if you paid cash for some procedures. Further, the price of medicine and medical supplies is 14 times more in some government hospitals than what the facilities they buy it from, and that is KEMSA. This is unethical and immoral, not our words, but those of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, whose report reveals these findings. Eunice Omolo will be taking us through that costly and painful injection of reality of how hospitals are minting money from cash-strained Kenyans through NHIF and other health insurers.
The burden of illness weighs heavy on people seeking solace at hospitals. While bodies are sagging under this weight, peace of mind is in a number of instances further bogged down by the burden of cost. Public healthcare providers are more keen on profits than the quality of healthcare of their patients. This is according to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. The commission, which carried out its survey between April and September 2017 and published its findings in a report entitled Report on Systems, Policies, Procedures and Practices in the Pricing of Pharmaceutical and Non-Pharmaceutical Supplies in the Kenya Public Health Sector. The report reveals skyrocketing price hiking on drugs that are acquired at a low price but overpriced for patients in public facilities.
Nothing can be more shocking than seeing an item going for 700 shillings at the supply or the KEMSA level, but going down to the hospital, you see the same item being dispensed at a cost of 35,000 Kenya shillings. From 700 to 35,000? How much? How? Even if it's a profit. If it's a profit, from 700 to 35,000, do we call that a profit-making process? What can it be? Very unethical.
For instance, the report shows that 1 milligram injection of adrenaline, which is used in emergencies, costs 7 Kenya shillings when dispensed by the Kenya Medical Supplies Agencies. At the Coast Referral Hospital, its price is hiked to 18 shillings and 62 cents, while at Embu Referral Hospital, it costs 30 shillings. In Nakuru Referral Hospital, it costs a staggering 100 Kenya shillings, while at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital in Nairobi, it goes for half this price. Further, the Commission found that patients with medical insurance cover are charged up to 50 times more for some surgical procedures. For instance, the removal of the nasal neck pack used to prevent the possibility of patients vomiting or swallowing blood after nose surgery is priced at 700 shillings in cash, but shoots up to a whopping 35,000 Kenya shillings if the patient opts to use NHIF or any other insurance cover to foot the bill, reflecting a 4,900% increase. Cesarean section operations carried out to surgically deliver babies whose lives may be endangered through normal delivery costs 20,000 Kenya shillings in cash, but shoots up to 90,000 Kenya shillings if payment is made through insurance. Surgical removal of cysts or irregular growths from the body costs 7,500 Kenya shillings in cash, but sharply increases to 90,000 Kenya shillings when paid by NHIF. This has raised concern on the ripple effects this will have on how much people pay for the insurance cover.
They don't want to make losses. If they're paying more than they take in, they will raise the insurance. A lot of people would not afford. And if the burden is on NHIF, meaning the demand would outstrip supply, the price would go to the roof and other people will just be dying like flies.
With what appears to be exploitation of the resources paid from the Mwananchi's taxes, the survey revealed that there is no list of suppliers that are licensed to manufacture and distribute non-pharmaceutical supplies in Kenya.
Studies have indicated a rise in the cost of healthcare in the country, which to some extent has been contributed by the exorbitant prices charged by healthcare providers, and if not looked into, may be a hindrance to universal healthcare in the country. Eunice Omolo, NTV, Nairobi County.
More on that report in tomorrow's Saturday Nation as well. And I'm told right now that we can actually get the very latest from the Baringo South by-election that has been taking place today. And this has pitted Charles Kamuren of the Jubilee Party, Cynthia Kipchilat of the Maendeleo Chap Party, and Paul Motoloi of the Chama Cha Mashinani. And our candidate, or rather our reporter on this particular report story has been Bridget Singana. She joins us with the very latest, and you can update us now.
Well, Mark, just as you've mentioned, the results have started trickling in here at Marigat High School, and this is the tallying center for this by-election here in Baringo South. Behind me is the PowerPoint presentation, or this is where the results are being displayed currently right now, and we have results so far from about 24 polling stations out of 132 polling stations, and as of now, Charles Kamuren from the Jubilee Party is leading with about more than 1,800 votes, and trailing him closely is Cynthia Kipchilat from Maendeleo Chap Party with about more than 1,500 votes. It has emerged, or it has evolved into a two-horse race rather between Jubilee and Maendeleo Chap, and this will eventually culminate with the winner being announced sometime, maybe tomorrow, because we have understood so far from officials here in IEBC, because of the rains here in Baringo South, especially in areas known as Muchongoi, which is accessed through Nakuru, and it's still part of this constituency. We'll be having problems with transportation, because also the shortcut route is also not secure to bring those presiding officers here, because what is happening, Mark, is that the presiding officers from these 132 polling stations will be required to come here in this hall with their final results from these polling stations, and after that the returning officer makes an announcement there, and it is keyed in, and then the results are displayed. It is still too early to call this race out, but it has now emerged that the ones who are up in the running for this seat in Baringo South to take over after the late Grace Kipchoge succumbed to cancer in April will be either a candidate from the Jubilee Party and also from the Maendeleo Chap. What have we witnessed today as we covered this election? It has been a process that has been seamless in terms of the way the decorum, both the candidates and also the residents have carried themselves out. The security officials were always at hand. Even here, accessing this place is not really easy. Anyone who is not a chief agent is not being allowed in this hall. The ones who are seated here are chief agents, and also further back are the officials. The returning officer is the one who has the mandate to announce the results that are trickling in from these 132 polling stations. There are 4 wards here in Baringo South, and it is a vast area, but they are hoping that they will be able to cover this up in a matter of time, and hopefully by tomorrow morning we'll be having the final results. What has also emerged in the course of the day is that Wafula Chebukati was also here, and this also was in a sense trying to assure the residents here and also the candidates that this election will be seamless. There were issues emerging regarding the way these results are being transmitted, but so far we have not seen any hiccups. Security is at its best. We have seen also in coming into this place our anti-riot police who are in their gear. No one is being allowed to access this hall anyhow. You have to also show your verification or credibility. If you're a journalist, you need to produce your identification to come into this hall. For the chief agents, they do have their identity sashes, just they have put them on, so it's really a very seamless process. We are expecting that eventually we'll be able to find out the final results. And also in this hall is the acting CEO of IEBC, who's also here, and also who's also following these proceedings on the sidelines is the commissioner who has been here since this process began yesterday, Professor Abdi Gulier, who has also expressed that this will be an exercise that will not witness anything to portray IEBC negatively. From the candidates, they have said they will respect the decision of this by-election. So Mark, we are still here. We will be burning the midnight oil literally to just follow these proceedings. It is definitely a 2-horse race between Jubilee Party and Maendeleo Chap. Mark.
Bridget Singana and Marigat, thank you very much for that update. And yes, indeed, burning the midnight oil. You will be with the 112, at least 112 polling stations remaining. That is the results coming in. But as has been predicted, Charles Kamuren and Cynthia Kipchilat are the 2 leading candidates in this race. We'll be getting the updates definitely by the break of dawn tomorrow. But we're taking a break here. Hope I'll still have your vote as my viewer when I come back, because this is what you can expect. ODM leader and the deputy president shake hands at a burial ceremony, but what more do they share?
Extraordinary could be right.
NTV Weekend Edition continues from the corridors of justice. Now, a court has issued a warrant for the arrest of two senior Homa Bay Assembly officials who escaped yesterday's dragnet by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Senior Principal Magistrate Thomas Obuto directed that Clerk Bob Kefas and Senior Accounts Controller Maurice Amek be arrested and taken to court. Kefas and Amek evaded arrest during a raid by the Anti-Graft Agency over accusations of embezzling over 27 million shillings from the County Assembly. The two went missing after the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, ordered that EACC to apprehend them. The five other suspects are Principal Finance Officer Caroline Chepkemoi Sang, Cashier Edwin Okello, former Service Board member Judith Omogi, former Majority Leader Owino Ooro, and former Minority Leader Isaac Nyandege. The court heard that the seven conspired to take the money as facilitation for travel, conference accommodation, and allowances for MCAs and staff during financial years 2015, 2016, and 2016 to 2017. The seven denied 11 counts of this crime. Senior Principal Magistrate Thomas Obuto ruled that they be remanded until 22nd of August 2018 when the court rules on their bond application will be made. Meanwhile, former Transport CS Michael Kamau, the gentleman you see right there, has sued the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the Director of Public Prosecution Nurdin Haji, and the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court. The former CS, who was charged in July with the offence of abuse of office and willful failure to comply with guidelines relating to the management of public funds, seeks to temporarily suspend a fresh trial. He is in trouble for the irregular award of a 33 million shillings tender for the construction of a road in Bungoma County. In his court documents, Kamau argues that the charges against him show a lack of proper foundation for his prosecution and is now urging the court to declare that his prosecution was tainted. Elsewhere, the Court of Appeal has upheld the election of Embu Governor Martin Wambora. That's not him. Judges William Oko, Daniel Musinga, and Fatuma Sichale, who delivered the ruling, held that the governor could not be penalized for the errors that marred the electoral process on August 8, 2017 elections. The Court of Appeal has also established that the High Court ruling that had nullified Wambora's victory relied on evidence not presented before the court. Wambora's political rival, former Senator Lenny Kivuti, had filed a case at the High Court which nullified Wambora's victory. He appealed, and the appellate court disagreed with the High Court's ruling, giving Wambora another moment of victory to savor. Now, in the meantime, other leaders have called on the government to fast-track investigations into the murder of former IEBC ICT manager Chris Msando. They were speaking in his Lunga Lunga Siaya home during a service to mark 1 year after his death.
May justice be our shield and defender. And every day as you go about your business, may the killers not have peace. And God will fight for us. Mungu atatupigania.
The spirit of the handshake, that the spirit of the building of the bridges that was consummated by the coming together of our people's president, Raila Amolo Odinga, and President Uhuru Kenyatta, is the need to deal decisively with historical injustices. President, kindly, don't waste time. Arrest these people because they are well known to your system.
A stage shared by rival leaders can at times feel rather small, but today Deputy President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga not only shared a podium, but the view that leaders from all sides of the political aisle need to support the war on graft. The Deputy President, however, asked candidates participating in elections to embrace democracy and accept the results, even as Odinga explained his political truce with President Uhuru Kenyatta.
For the first time in so long, Deputy President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga shared a stage at the burial of former West Mogirango Member of Parliament Henry Obocha. On this day, though, there were no nasty political exchanges. the deputy president only using the occasion to call on all candidates taking part in elections to learn to accept the outcome. Odinga, on his part, however, drilled down on the need for electoral reforms to eliminate electoral fraud, even though he accepted a political truce between himself and President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Sisi wote, jameni, tuwe wanademokrasia. Na demokrasia inasema ya kwamba asiyekubali kushindwa. Mimi nawaomba, tukienda kwa uchaguzi, tuheshimu uamuzi wa wananchi.
Tulisema Kenya hii tumekuwa na shida mingi zaidi. Watu wamekufa wengi wakati wa uchaguzi. Watu wanapigwa risasi, wengine wanakatwa, wengine wanachomwa na moto ndani ya kanisa na kadhalika. Tunasema tulimalize.
The two leaders, however, agreed on the need to support the war on graft and working towards improving the lives of the electorates.
Sasa jameni, tuachane na mambo ya vyeo, mambo ya vyama, mambo ya uchaguzi, mambo ya viongozi. Sasa tuongee mambo ya wananchi. Kwa sababu vyeo na zile zingine na uchaguzi ni zetu viongozi. Hawa wananchi wanataka kujua barabara itajengwa vipi, hospitali itakuwa na vifaa kiasi gani, maji itapatikana kwa njia gani, sitima itaunganishwa vipi.
Na adui mkubwa wa kwanza ni ufisadi. Na ufisadi ni ufisadi. Hajui mkabila. Hata kama niwasema, hata kama ni ndugu yangu wa tumbo moja na mama yangu, kama yeye ni mfisadi, nasema wewe utabeba msalaba yako wewe peke yako.
Until his death, Henry Obocha was the chairman of the Privatization Commission. Obocha served as West Mogirango MP between 1992 and 2007 and was the Planning and National Development Minister in the NAC government. Vincent Odur, NTV.
The Nation Media Group's chairman, Dr. Wilfred Kiboro, has sharply rebuked the harassment of journalists in the line of duty. Dr. Kiboro says that the media should be given the freedom to carry out its mandate, given that the work it does is for the public good, often exposing corrupt practices. His comments come in the wake of the assault of 3 of the company's journalists while on assignment at the Coast region. He spoke earlier this morning at the Nation Media Group's investor briefing.
How do Kenya policemen come into guarding private property? Yeah? Because it belongs to somebody way up there. This is the kind of thing that I think as a Nation Media Group, we have to stand very, very firmly and say impunity, enough is enough, and we have to stop this kind of nonsense. The people were beaten up, yeah? This is not acceptable. And this is what we are talking about. It's not only that. You look at other people that we keep on coming with the stories, people who are built on riparian rivers now say, you know, now you move the river. Yeah, leave my building alone. I have invested. I wonder who came first, the river or the developer? So, media is under threat. Only last week, some journalists from the People newspapers, again, we are beaten up for no good reason. And I must say that even the Kenyan public, the public needs to feel outraged by this kind of abuse of our journalists, because all they are doing is covering what is happening and informing the citizens about what's happening in their country.
And this is not because he's my chairman or whether he'd give me a pay rise for talking highly of him, but I couldn't have said it better, sir. On that note, to take a business break, Dan Mwangi will be handling all the corporate affairs after that.
Business, Mdan Mwangi. Now, two Kenya Bureau of Standards officials, a Kilindini Port Health Officer and a director of an importing company, have been charged in a Mombasa court with releasing 10,000 bags of substandard sugar into the country. Samuel Njolo and Daniel Samuel Musta of KEBS and Peter Mwadziwe from Port Health and Air Menzies International Company, Director Abdi Mohammed, have been charged with willful disobedience of statutory duty contrary to Section 130 of the Penal Code. The charge sheet indicates that the accused, jointly with others not before the court, willfully released to the public 10,000 bags of 50 kilo bags of Egyptian brown sugar that failed to comply with the requirements of Kenyan standards and ought to have been destroyed. The case will be heard on the 20th of August. The Kilifi County government is looking to significantly grow its tourist numbers in the next 2 years, following a partnership with the tourism ministry that will see the Malindi beachfront beautified. Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi says his government has already set aside 65 million shillings towards the project.
The national government, through the Ministry of Tourism, will put money in the next financial year, 2019-2020, when the designs are complete and concluded. But that is a priority. Why? Because just having a beach and having a hotel without activities that excite the visitor experience, then there'll be no much numbers coming into the beach.
Let's bring it home if I put it that way. The Nation Media Group has announced an interim dividend of 1 shilling and 50 cents per share for the first half of the year. This coming after a tough year in which its performance was impacted by election-related factors. The region's largest media group saw net profit for the period decline to 529.2 million shillings from 819.2 million. Nation Media Group's chairman, Wilfred Kiboro, has expressed confidence that the second half of the year portends stronger revenue for the media house given the resurgent economy.
Amidst a tough operating environment, shareholders of the Nation Media Group will still take home fruits from their investment, with the interim dividend set at 1 shilling and 50 cents. The protracted election environment adversely impacted the media group's business, leading to the 35.5% dip in net profit to 529.2 million shillings.
Some of the things that are contributing to our not so strong performance in the first half of this year were mainly driven by political circumstances. And I think those people who are in business, everybody you talk to, you find that the environment here, and Nation Media Group, particularly the Daily Nation, has a significant contribution to our overall result.
The protracted election environment adversely impacted the media group's business, leading to the 35.5% dip in net profit to 529.2 million shillings. The company has also had to contend with the difficulty of non-payment by the government for services already rendered.
When the government pays us, this money will come back and this performance actually can double, because if we get the 800, that 1.1 will go almost 2 billion. That's the real impact of the performance. And this is a problem which is affecting all the media houses.
They take services and goods from the average wananchi and do not pay those debts. It's criminal and unacceptable.
The Nation Media Group's turnover for the 6-month period declined by 6.7%, while total costs went up by 1.4%. The company has shifted its focus and is set to tap into revenue streams such as music, gaming, events, and education. As at July, the Nation Media Group's digital footprint had a total reach of 33.6 million users. The wide reach propelled the digital unit's revenue for the first 6 months of the year, which went up by 6%.
We are expecting that the digital platforms will be contributing something like 10 to 15% of our bottom line within the next couple of years, and that is quite significant.
The airing of the World Cup helped propel NTV to second position in the market. The company's strategy going forward is pegged on diversifying its revenue streams as it continues to innovate, manage its costs, and strengthen the performance of its legacy brands. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
From the state of the nation to the state of food, and Food Friday is next with Zena Bondati.
The Mwea irrigation scheme sits just under 100 kilometers from Nairobi, like well-tended grass fields spreading farther than the eyes can see, covering 25,000 acres of land and accounting for 80% of all the rice produced in Kenya. Pishori Basmati, as it is known, is Mwea's speciality, fetching premium prices on the shelf. Started in 1953, these fields have played a key role in delivering rice to your table. Yet, as the years go by, these fields are staring extinction in the face due to frequent water shortages.
Naona mvua imepotea. Tuseme kama 2015, 2016 hakukuwa na mvua na ndio wakulima walipata hasara kubwa sana. Walienda up with nothing, hawakupata mazao. Na ndio sababu serikali wakati wa msimu uliopita ndio serikali ikakuja ikasema wameondoa hayo madeni yote.
So in an acre, a farmer would harvest 5 bags or something less than 10 bags in an acre. Well, under normal circumstances, you are supposed to harvest 25 bags.
At the height of the 2016-2017 drought, pretty much all of the country was dry and water was scarce everywhere. And one of the biggest affected industries was the agriculture industry. And this scheme here in particular, the Mwea irrigation scheme, was also hugely affected, with water levels running so dangerously low that production fell by up to 70%. These frequent water challenges has forced the scheme to rethink its water use and adopt more efficient methods of irrigation.
The flow that we get from the two rivers, when the river flows are okay, is about 9 meter cubic per second, and the year to our water requirements is about 12 meter cubic per second. So for us to be able to irrigate with that deficit, we do rotational irrigation.
But despite the challenges, the farmers refuse to give up, even as they say their production declines every year. Currently, it is planting season, and this crop in the field will be harvested in mid-November. The 7,000 farmers who run this scheme are hopeful that they will harvest at least 78,000 metric tons. Over the years, the Mwea economy has grown to depend on rice, but the more that the fields strain under the weight of climate change, the more that Mwea's survival is threatened.
Wenye wamefanya hii town ingrow si watu wa Mwea, ni watu wa kukunja. Kwa hivyo mchere imeenda venye tunaweza sema wa sasa, mchere haisaidii sana Mwea, katikati ya Mwea inasaidia watu wa nje.
The scheme is putting all of its hope of remaining in business on Thiba Dam, which is under construction in Gishugu constituency, Kirinyaga County, at a total cost of 19.5 billion shillings. Without this dam, the National Irrigation Board says, then the Mwea scheme will collapse in about 5 years.
After the Thiba Dam is completed, we'll be able to expand the scheme by another 6,500 acres, and at the same time double the production that we are getting from the scheme, from the current about 80,000 metric tons to around 160 metric tons.
Zainab Wandati, NTV for Food Friday.
From Mwea they stand, it doesn't seem so easy or so racy, if you know what I mean. Dan is my name, and business is done. Good night.
Here's some unfortunate news to continue with NTV Weekend Edition. More than 350 people have lost their lives in the Indian state of Kerala as floods continue to cause devastation. More than 200,000 people are now residing in relief camps, even as dozens of helicopters and hundreds of boats from the government improve rescue operations. In Mali, opposition party supporters took to the streets protesting manipulation of votes that led to the victory of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita.
The death toll in India has risen to more than 350 as floods and its effects worsen in the southern Indian state of Kerala. Houses remain partially submerged as stranded people with government-led teams who are using inflated boats and helicopters to rescue them. More than 1,500 government and non-government buildings have been turned into IDP camps. Hundreds of opposition supporters in Mali held protests, holding banners reading "Don't touch my vote" through the capital of Bamako to protest against the results they claimed were manipulated. Incumbent President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita won the re-election by 67% of the vote in a runoff against opposition leader Soumaïla Cissé. Cissé accused Keita of allowing corruption to flourish. Fans paid tribute to Aretha Franklin at her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame after the Queen of Soul died at the age of 76. The music icon was also mourned by celebrities, especially her fellow musical artists. Many of them took to social media to share their condolences. Franklin, who won 18 Grammy Awards, had some 25 gold records, died at her home in Detroit after a long battle with pancreatic cancer.
And with that, we'll take a break for sports. Brian Otwala is waiting to give us the very latest from their desk.
The Kenya Simbas make 2 changes from the side that beat Tunisia 67-0 for the team to play Namibia in the last round of the Africa Gold Cup on Saturday in Windhoek. Kabra Sugar flanker George Nyambua replaces Martin Owila at blindside, while Homeboys fullback Tony Onyango is in for Vincent Musei. Dalmas Chitui, who scored 2 tries in the win over Zimbabwe, makes the bench alongside KCB trio of Peter Karia, Moses Amusala and Curtis Lilako. 2019 World Cup. Moving on, national girls basketball champions Kayatiwi will battle for bronze when they face ESB Kamonyi of Rwanda on Saturday in the 17th edition of the East Africa Secondary School Games that are ongoing in Musanze, Rwanda. This as Kwale face Mukono, while Nginda play Uganda's Kawempe in the girls football final. Makori reports from Rwanda.
Brookside East Africa Games highlights brought to you by Brookside.
In girls basketball final, it will be a repeat of last year final and Ugandan affair, where East Africa defending champions Budo will entertain St. Mary's Chitende. St. Mary's Chitende are the Ugandan national champions. They have bundled out Kenya's champions Kayatiwi by winning 69 to 67 points. In the first quarter, Uganda's St. Mary's Chitende won 23-17 points before Kayatiwi won the second 17-15. Chitende took the third quarter 16-14 as Kaya fought back to win the last quarter 19-15.
Kayatiwi walichoka fourth quarter. Hapo ndo tukabebea juu defense, ndo stretch lead.
Ni ukiangalia wale tulikuwa tunacheza nao ni watu wamekuwa hapa miaka 7. Kuna watoto wa university 3, wale wengine wako form 6 na wanacheza na form 1. Utapata kidogo hapo kuna mismatch.
Honestly, our defense was somehow confused, but we thank God we managed to reach the semis.
Kayatiwi will take on ESB Kamonyi of Rwanda in third place playoff on Saturday. ESB Kamonyi lost 76-39 to Budo in the semis. In the girls football semi-finals tomorrow, Kawempe of Uganda will take on Nginda of Kenya as Mkono of Uganda tackle Kwale of Kenya. Boys semi-finals tomorrow will see Kakamega High Green Commando from Kenya take on LDK of Rwanda as Budo face BS Kimanya of Uganda. Yoshua Makori, NTV, Stade Uboroherane, Akarere, Kamsanze, Rwanda.
Brookside is calling out to young talented students for an opportunity to win a university scholarship. Participate in the Brookside East Africa Games in Musanze, Rwanda and get scouted. Score an A- in KCSE or its equivalent for those from our East African countries to get shortlisted. Brookside Dairy, nurturing sports talent and academics.
Moving on, Kenya's junior stars' intentions of qualifying for the 2019 Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations were boosted after thrashing their counterparts from Djibouti 9-0 in the Sekafa region qualification match that doubles up as the qualifier at the Chamazi Sports Complex in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Both Rich Nodald Stewart and Matthew Mwendwa grabbed a hat-trick, while Keith Mbali notched a brace, with Nicholas Ochieng added another to compound Djibouti to the tournament's heaviest loss thus far. The win is Kenya's second after their 4-0 win over South Sudan on that propels Michael Amenga's charges to the top of Group B. And back home, AFC Leopards will look to pile more misery on relegation-threatened Thika United on Saturday at Thika Stadium in round of 27 of the KPL at 3 p.m. FC are third on the log with 45 points, 20 points behind runaway leaders Gor Mahia, and they will be looking for a win that will cement them in third place. Meanwhile, Thika, who disdained for the relegation, will be looking for a win to keep their chances of avoiding relegation. And fresh from a 5,000 victory, or rather 5,000 meters victory at the Africa Championships, world and Olympic champion Hellen Obiri will be hoping to fend off stiff competition from a field of top of the 2018 world list when she takes to the track at the Birmingham Diamond League on Saturday. Obiri, who has her sights on breaking a world record, faces two compatriots Caroline Kipkirui and Agnes Tirop. African champion Conseslus Kipruto and Sofiane El Bakali continue their rivalry in the 3,000 meter steeplechase and will be wary of Moroccan who prevailed in Monaco recently. And Gold Cup boys defending champions Boca Bona opened their title defense on a winning streak as the 2018 edition of the annual seven-a-side tournament kicked off at the Hillcrest School Karen. Boca defeated champions 1-0 in a thrilling opener before thrashing Altron 4-0 to seal a ticket to the knockout stages on Saturday. Girls defending champions Akakoro edged out South Sea Academy 3-0 in their tournament opener as RFC also defeated South Sea Academy 2-0. The Day 2 competition hosted by Green Sports Africa that has attracted 200 teams will conclude on Saturday. And Arsenal travel to Stamford Bridge in the late Premier League kickoff at 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, looking for their first win of the season and